Thank you. So that deals with the item number 4. Unless, of course, there's anything that we'd like to, as members, would like to declare verbally. If not, so we will just send those completed forms to Ms. Hutton. With that, can we then go straight to agenda item number 5? Thanks, Gerald. Can we now go straight to agenda item number 5, which is dealing with the reports themselves. Mr. Mavuso, who's presenting?
Thanks, Chair. Brian will start with the introduction and also probably introduce the team that will present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mavuso. Mr. Sichotlo, over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair. I don't see Brian on the list of attendees, but I can quickly just introduce the submission, if you may.
Thank you, Ms. Matako. You can proceed now.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to REC members and colleagues. The submission for this afternoon is to deal with the approval of the municipal tariff applications for the financial year 2022-23. This is a continuation from the last REC meeting of the 20th June, where we had 117 applications. Today, we have 49 tariff applications to be considered by REC, 2 of which are resubmissions that were withdrawn from the last meeting. Chair, in terms of the delegation metrics, the metrics delegates REC to approve municipal electricity increases within approved guideline and benchmark, and also within guideline and above benchmarks. And just to also clarify that the approved guideline increase refers to the overall or average increase applied for by municipality, and not necessarily the individual increase per tariff category. In terms of the main submission cover, it is very similar to what we presented to REC in the last week's meeting. We have covered there in issues which were previously raised by REC members, and we've also tabled and addressed how those issues were dealt with. That is on page 6 of the main submission. On the 25th of May, the Energy Regulator approved a guideline increase of 7.47% for the 2022-23 municipal tariff review process. The tariff applications that will be presented this afternoon will be based on this guideline increase, as well as on the benchmarks or tariff range that were approved by Energy Regulator. That's on page 18. It starts from page 18 of the submission. Chair, with your permission, then I think we are ready to start with the actual presentation of the tariff analysis. The annexure or sequence of presentations starts from page 15 of the submission, and it starts with Free State Province. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Matako. Members, I would like to maybe to open it up to you, so we deal with the overall questions that you may have on the submissions themselves, and that when we then deal with the individual applications, that will go speedily through them, highlighting any issues that may be of which may be different from the overall picture that has been presented. So, but before I open it up to you, members, can I just get clarity, Madam Matako, about 2 things that you did mention, and this is the issue that we raised before, I think, at the previous meeting. Can you really assure us that none of the applications that are before the REC today are above guidelines? And that if we can also then agree that for those that are the applications that are above guidelines, that will be restricted to 7.47% increase, unless, of course, the the municipality would like to then make a further application, in which case they would then have to follow the processes that have been clearly identified. I just need assurance, I think, the members, so that we don't go through the same issue that we went through last week, that we are assured that all of the applications that are before us are within guidelines, and if there are any that the increases that are above guidelines, that will be dealt with in the manner that was agreed last time. Madam Atlako.
Yes, Chairperson. In fact, that was what the committee decided on at the last meeting, and the tariffs that have been brought here are increasing by the guideline increase of 7.47, and those that are, unless if there are serious motivation provided, will be limited to benchmark increases. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. There is one that is definitely not meeting that, but we'll actually get to it. But there is one that is not meeting that that definition or that constraint. But we'll deal with it when we get to it. Members, any questions, comments to the team? Overall comments, questions. Starting with yourself, Mr. Mkhize.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenters. I would just like to, first of all, state that because this is a continuation, the previous overall resolutions then stand. I would like to get clarity on when I go to the tables on 8.2, just underneath that, I think it applies to all the tables. This rand 0.0 cents per kilowatt hour, if someone can just help me to understand, what units are these? Because they are there throughout, just a clarification of that. And then when it comes to the applications in general, going through all of them, I think there is a need just to not look at corrective action as simply going to what the municipality needs to do, but I find that I'm short of what is then the issue of compliance monitoring and enforcement. People like, I know, like the first one, for example, is very clear with the Maluta Pofung, where you find that there is an issue of likelihood of violation of license conditions for distribution, and not just to say we're waiting for them to correct the situation, but what action are we taking in terms of enforcement of compliance? So I think for me that would be crucial, as well as being categorical in terms of action steps as to when things are going to be done. In some instances, we just say that we're waiting for the plan, instead of making it clear as to what have we done then to get those plans from our side. I think sometimes it appears like we've got, a very hands-off, so sometimes, or very light-handed regulation when the law actually does empower us to take more firmer steps to address the situation. So if the team can just take note of that and be able to improve it. I don't want to go mentioning each and every time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Assetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I wouldn't know some of the agreements, but I would like, just for the purposes of today's presentations, since I was not around last week, but maybe for the presentations and the applications that are before us today, to the extent that from my preparations, I could see that there are some challenges with the financial status of the municipalities. And I see from the analysis that the team, again, despite our guidance even last year, that when you are doing the analysis, it is important, especially when you can see that some municipalities are operating at a deficit of like 60%. In addition, you find that even the energy losses are so high, well above 40%. That already tells you something about the financial situation of that municipality. We have always said that the team, and consistently, they must do the calculations showing that when the municipality pays attention to reducing the deficit by a certain percentage, being realistic, if it were to reduce the deficit and also improve on the energy losses and improve on the collection rate of the municipality, that should improve the financial situation, and we used to even have figures to show by how much that improvement would be if the municipality were to work on such things, so that it is not just a tick box when we get to the end of the presentation as to what is it that we're going to ask the municipality in about 6 months or so to submit maybe a plan to deal with challenges. It must be practical. It shows us that the financial situation of this municipality, it's bad, but it can be improved if these other things are done. And if we do a calculation showing that if these other things are done, this is the situation or the financial situation of the municipality. So I would like, to the extent that that has not been done again this year, and it's not consistent, then the team, when they present each of these applications, they must give us a sense, practical sense, not to say we will ask for a plan. No, that is not acceptable. They must tell us how the situation of the municipality will improve if the deficit is brought down, and if the energy losses are brought down, and the collection rate is brought down, and then also deal with some of the plans that needs to be monitored. I think, Chairperson, that will take us somewhere, rather than to repeat these things every year, and the team simply digresses from some of those resolutions of the committee. It becomes a problem because we cannot actually be going back to situations that we said we need to move on and do much better and improve. If that can be done, Chairperson, and also an indication of the submission of the cost of supply studies, because you have made progress, Chairperson, with regards to the methods that we are going to use going forward. So it is also important that during this process, we get a better sense of how the team has engaged with each of the municipalities they are working closely with, so that we know that we're dealing with costs that are realistic, rather than just to depend on these averages and the guideline increases. I would like to hear those, Chairperson, because I think they will make the decision making easier, at least from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Assetti. I did get cut off a little bit, but I think I did catch what the issues that we have raised, and hopefully the team would have captured them as well. But before Ms. Mataku, you respond, can I just get clarity? You do bring with this one issues with this batch. You do bring issues that talk to SSEGs. I didn't see them in the document, and I would assume that it was just a generic presentation. If you can clarify that, are there any SSEG issues here, or those would actually go to the ELS? Under paragraph 9, you actually talk to the SSEG benchmarks, rather than us spending time on it this time, when they are not even included here. If we can maybe clarify that. The one thing that I thought it would be useful, I think, colleagues, if you can clarify for the members, you do talk to, in terms of paragraph 4.3, you do talk about the municipal budgeting issue, and we are only making decisions on the tariffs now, and the municipal budgets were done in March, a number of them. So the question that I keep asking myself, if you can clarify one issue here in terms of municipal budgeting. Do municipalities budget on the electricity revenue, where that's where the price comes in, or do they budget based on their share of that revenue? That is based on the surcharges, for instance, that they're going to be levying, which are not dependent on this process, I would assume. That's number one. Number two, if there are any profits from the distribution business, am I to understand that municipalities budget, that the municipality budget is dependent on the determination of the bulk electricity price? If so, why? And is it not what is leading to all of these issues with some municipalities using monies from the bulk, who are not servicing the bulk account? Is that not the issue? Just maybe just a word or two, and if we can limit, I guess, our responses, team, to no later than past. It is 14:24 now, to no later than past, so we can be able to go straight into the applications at 2:30. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Firstly, the issue of whether it's rands or cents, the benchmarks, the benchmark issues. Chair, on this one, when benchmarks were calculated, there was a decision taken to do the prices in rands per unit. So that's how they've been done, even on if you look at page 8 of our submission. And then maybe just to add on to that, I will ask Utabo, who was leading the guideline project, to maybe just elaborate further on the unit that is used for the benchmarks. There was an issue that I think it's more an issue for us to note going forward. An issue raised on compliance and monitoring and enforcement. I think it's more an issue for us to note. And also, Mr. Mkhize indicated that we need to clearly specify and indicate timelines on which these projects and these issues that are raised for each municipalities will be addressed. That is something that we're noting, Chair. Then I think for Ms. Masetti, she addressed the issue of consistency on how well, if a municipality has a high deficit and high energy loss and high or low rate of collection, how will the situation improve if it were to be set at a certain level? That I think, as the presenters present on each case, they can then indicate that one. In terms of progress regarding the cost of supply, there is a comprehensive report that will be going to ELS, I think in the coming next ELS, that will have a full comprehensive progress on the cost of supply for each municipality and where we are in terms of that. The issue of SSEG, Chairperson, there are no SSEGs in this particular submission. The delegation metrics delegates only ELS to approve SSEG. So there is no applications on SSEG for this particular submission. On the issue of municipal budgeting and whether the budget is dependent on bulk accounts, I would like to ask my colleagues, maybe Dr. Bongani, maybe to just assist in responding to that one, or any other colleague who's able to assist. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Atlaku. Dr. Konjolayo, if you can kindly assist in the minute or so. don't necessarily have to respond to it today, by the way. It's a matter that may be relevant for the ELS, but if you can, please assist. Kunjalaj.
Well, thanks, Chair. I would like to request to respond tomorrow at the ELS once I get more data. Thanks, Chair. My apologies.
All right. No, thank you. So with that, I'd like to then say, members, I'm hoping that your questions would be, and apologies, Madam Seti, ideally what we should have done is I should have actually briefed you in terms of what was agreed the last time, so that you would also be, in the know in terms of the issues that we discussed at the last ERC. But they won't be new to you, would like to believe, but you did make some arguments in terms of how we progress, so that we can go through this bulk of these things as quickly as possible. At least this week, they're not as big as last week, but last week it took us forever to actually get through this. So with that, colleagues, I'm really hoping that we would have dealt with the issues that have been raised, and can I then, with that, maybe invite the first presenter, who is basically Thabo. And Thabo, you can maybe also answer some of the issues as we are responding. If I can just maybe invite Thabo to then present the first one, which is a very problematic submission. Over to you, Mr. Chavala.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair. So I'll be taking you through the tariff recommendations for Malutia Phofung, which is situated in the Free State Province. So while the municipality is actually applying for a guideline increase and there are no seasonal benchmarks, we have these tariffs have actually been compared with comparative benchmarks and were found to be in line. So as a result, these tariffs have been recommended as proposed. So I think maybe I would like to just take this opportunity to respond to an issue that was raised by Mr. Mkhize to ask that what actions are we taking to actually enforce compliance instead of just waiting for actions to be taken by other bodies. I think on this one, it's actually quite tricky, and I have not come across another municipality in a similar situation as this. Maybe some bit of a background is to say that there was a task team that was formed. Initially, it was led by DOE. And NERSA was part of that task team. So what happened was that recommendations were made, and I suppose you could say the mandate of the task team was complete. So this team was actually then replaced by a different presidential team, which is now then leading the whole process with this municipality. So the problems they are facing, they are not uniquely electricity. There's a lot of other issues, including issues such as water, that that task team is then being tasked with dealing with. So initially, while we had said that we'll wait for this process to unfold, so we were trying not to sort of have multifaceted solutions to a single problem. So we were saying that maybe let this process unfold. We can take the recommendations and then be in support of that whole process. But having noted what Mr. Mkhize has indicated, we will investigate any further non-compliance from our end, and what we'll do is that we'll recommend any actions based on our own internal processes. That's what we'll execute. So with that being said, Chair, I still recommend that these tariffs be approved as recommended in Table 7. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chawadal. Maybe before I put this matter for a vote, just a word or two on this one. This is been a difficult, I guess, municipality. This matter has, as Towers indicated, has been to the presidential, to the political task team. It has actually been gone to court. We've tried a lot of bilaterals, and the issue has been to get NERSA to revoke the license. But the revocation process, in terms of our law, is a very complicated one. Needed to go to court. It's not something that NERSA can do on its own. There's a whole lot of issues that have been tried here, and there has not been a resolution. One of the things that have been recommended, of course, is that NERSA should set up a tribunal and find the municipality and actually investigate the municipality. The challenge that comes with this is that if you've got a municipality that is already struggling the only outcome of that process, of the arbitration process, would be a fine. Now, to then fine a municipality that is struggling to service its bulk account was not necessarily seen as a viable solution. And there are also all sorts of constitutional issues that come into being. The Municipal Fiscus, the Municipal Systems Act comes into this. It is a very complicated process, and therefore I would appreciate, Mr. Nkiza, your concerns, but the solutions at the end of the day, they can only be intergovernmental. There needs to be a political issue, a political solution to this, which is also relates to the funding of municipalities. It is a huge problem, which is what is happening at Maluti-Apofo. I just thought I'll actually just indicate that it's not that the team has not been doing anything. It's a very convoluted problem at this particular municipality. There's another one as well, in Free State and one in KZN, which falls into a similar category as Maluti-Apofo. So with that, members, can I then maybe put this to a vote and see whether can we approve this the application as applied for by show of hands? Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Yes, Mr. Nkiza, you wanted to comment?
Yes,
sorry,
Chairperson.
I didn't open it up for comments yet. Sorry, apologies.
I support the approval. I note all that you have said, but I still want to emphasize the fact that we need, as a regulator, to be seen to be doing what is within our legal provisions to do, because down the line, if someone turns around and lambasts us for not having done what we are supposed to do, it should be clear as to what have we done in terms of contributing to the resolution of this problem. And then also, beside the comments that I've already given, I want to repeat them. As I said, I also think that there was an error on page 4 of 17 in terms of energy losses. My indication, what is indicated for me, that the energy losses have increased, not decreased, like said. So unless I'm wrong in terms of that understanding. The issue of timelines I've already mentioned, so I don't want to go to that. So basically, I support the approval of the recommendation for the 7.47% increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Madam Massetti, sorry, I didn't give you an opportunity to comment.
Yes. Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, I appreciate the challenges, and I would also want us to just say, even despite the fact that we understand the challenges, but will not compromise our due diligence as the regulator in terms of what we would want to see this municipality doing. And it is something that we should always stress on and monitor the situation. So in terms of the proposed increase, yes, I fully agree. Where I am not happy, it is on the follow-up with the municipality. We are very weak. We are not firm. It's like we're just rubber stamping. We're just trying to be, to be understanding of the situation, and we're not doing what we're supposed to do, and that cannot be right. They just say that we will speak to the administrator. We can't be doing that. We must put our things firm. We must be firm on them. What is it that we want to see? Whether we'll address those things with the administrator that has been appointed to sort out things with that municipality is one thing, but let's spell out our own thing. And the person in charge who will make sure that the regulator wants these things, that will then be the person who must make sure that those things are executed. And then we can engage with that person. But we don't spell it out, except to just say that we will ensure that the administrator takes into account the issues with the electricity department. No, that is not acceptable. And where we want a plan with concrete milestones, let us state clearly that we want that plan. If we want it by September or August, we want the plan by September or August of 2022, a plan that will set out how the municipality is going to take care and address energy losses, and as well as reducing the deficit and also increasing or improving its a collection rate, things like those. But we are not spelling them out, and that's where I have a problem, Chairperson. And also the fact that we have also calculated the additional revenue that is forgone, of which it can be recovered if those other things are improved. How, as a regulator, then put that as a target to say we have calculated this, we didn't do it in vain. We have calculated it, and we would want you to work towards achieving that in terms of improving your financial situation. That's the part that I'm not happy with. And I'm hoping that in the subsequent applications that are going to be presented, the team will be able to already anticipate these kind of questions and deal with them during the presentation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Asserti. Mr. Mkiza, your hand is still up, sir?
Apologies, a lingering hand. I support the recommendation, as I said earlier on, in view of the comments that I've put forth. Thank you.
Thank you. I also support, and I do want to assure you, especially on this one, Madam Asserti, that because at least I know how much even legal has been involved with this. It's one of those extremely complex issues. But clearly, what we are saying is that that should not take away our own responsibility as the regulator to do certain things. And the question is, are we doing that? And in the coming presentations, colleagues, if we can touch on any of the issues that we may be doing for a particular municipality, especially those with high energy losses. If you can just kindly indicate what kind of actions that we are taking. But with that, I do support as well. So, Mr. Chavala, you've got your decision on this one. If we can then move on to the next one, please. That is still yours again, Masilonyane.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The next one is Masilonyane, which is also situated in the Free State Province. So Masilonyane is also applying for a guideline increase, and its tariffs are within the benchmarks. As a result, these tariffs have been recommended as proposed. Taking Ms. Maseti's guidance, I would just like to mention that, yes, we've identified that the energy losses for this particular municipality, they're a bit high, on the higher end of things, at 26%. So in as much as we've identified these targets, what we will then do is that in requesting that smart plan in addressing these losses, well, this municipality has already provided us with that plan that details all the actions that will be taken to reduce these energy losses. We've analyzed it, and we've satisfied ourselves that the steps within that plan are sufficient to move us towards that 12%. But maybe what we need to do a bit further than that is to say that we need to have an engagement with municipalities in terms of the targets that we've identified, to say that the additional revenue lost as a result of these energy losses, we will then maybe try to set up some form of target surrounding that. And because we actually have identified to say that if these losses were within our benchmarks, this is the sort of performance that they would be seeing. So we'll start to sort of engage with the municipality from that angle. With that being said, I'd like to recommend the tariffs for approval as recommended, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chavala. Members, I'm not sure if you've got any particular questions for this application, other than the issues that you've already raised, which the team has noted. By show of hands, if any specific ones. If not,
approved, Chair, from the side.
Yeah, approved. Okay, Mr. Mkiza, by show of hands, members, can you show if you approve the recommendation, to support the recommendation? Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza.
I support, Chair. I've just been finger trouble. I support, Chair, but I think of importance is the issue of engaging SALCA as well as other parties to deal with this thing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. I also support. Mr. Chabalala, you've got your decision. If we can then move on to Ms. Tanda Majabe.
Sorry, Chair, it will be presented by Zwangararupe.
Oh, okay. It indicates here that it's Delisi Tanda that's present. Okay, please proceed. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Machabeng is in Free State Province. it is applying for the 7.47 benchmark. Its challenge is the deficit, which is at 11.92, and the energy losses that are at 24.43. And then when the calculations are done pertaining how much losses are contributing to the revenue, this Machabeng is losing about 191,781,243 if the losses are at the if the losses are at the NERSAS benchmarks, and also if the surplus is at 12%. Then overall is applying for the 7.4%, where the guideline was where the application was outside the guideline. It has been the inflation has been applied, and I recommend for approval. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Any questions? None. If not, can I see by show of hands, members, if you support this the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti, would you support, ma'am? Thank you, Madam Maseti. I also support. So, Mr. Ralufta, you've got your decision. Madam Masike? Pumelela?
Thank you, Chairperson. Pumelela is also based in the Free State. It has a service level agreement with Eskom, where in Eskom is...
Madam Masike, please hold. Madam Maseke, is there a question you want to raise, ma'am? Sorry, I see your hand is up.
I'm struggling with my... No, Chairperson, I'm struggling with my head.
You are struggling with your hand. Okay, maybe you can just indicate verbally, ma'am.
I don't know what's going on. Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. It might be the hang-ups from your trip from last week. Yeah, it's a bug. Please proceed, Madam Masike.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I'll be presenting Pumelela, which is also based in the Free State. The municipality has entered into an agreement with Eskom, where Eskom is assisting it with revenue management and metering of bulk purchases in order to ensure the financial viability. In terms of the technical performance, there is generally an improvement. Last year, the deficit was 80%, around 80%. This year is around 29%, and the losses have also improved by about 4%. So it is recommended that the tariffs be approved as applied for, because they are all within the benchmarks, and the municipality is applying for a guideline increase. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Members, any questions, comments on this one? If not, by show of hands, members, and you can state verbally. Thanks, Madam Maseti. I can see your hand now.
Yes, there's just one question, Chair.
Okay, please proceed, ma'am.
Thank you. It will be quick, Chairperson. It's something that we just cannot overlook, because we had put a cap last year of 12% that at least the energy losses be reduced. So where we take a resolution, and as a regulator telling the municipality that it has to embark on endeavors that will reduce energy losses, and they ignore that, then do we sit back and just say that there's nothing that's going to happen, there's not going to be any compliance or any letter that is sent to them putting them on terms regarding what the regulator has stated? And now this year they come back and the energy losses are still sitting at 23%, 23.7%. They did not achieve the 12% that the energy regulator, having assessed the situation and has come to a conclusion that they must come down to 12%. I mean, in such situations, how do we deal with it? I support the recommendation, but we have to at least be firm. We can't be a regulator that says do this and there's no explanation. There's nothing that is submitted well in time. And then when it comes to these kinds of, because here we check the performance of the municipality, by the way, that will also have financial implications. This is the time for it. So if they ignored what we have told them, it is also the time that we take a step back and say, we don't like this. and also deal with it if they don't comply.
Chairperson, may I respond?
Yes, please do.
The municipality has submitted a progress report on the reduction of the losses. We analyzed the report. We considered it to be adequate to address the losses. It is indicated under paragraph 5 of the analysis sheet on page. I don't have the stamped pages, sorry. Paragraph 2.5.
Page 52.
Yes, they. The municipality, in this plan, the municipality has indicated that it will take on average about 3 years to reduce the losses to the required levels. So we do have the report and we are monitoring it. And there is, in terms of what they are doing with ESCOM, there is an improvement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, members, with those comments, Mr. Mkhize, I saw your hand was up. Was it for approval or did you have a comment there?
Mine was for approval. As I said, we've noted the general comment of saying, please, we must show that we are firm in terms of compliance to our previous resolution, as well as in terms of the law and conditions of the license. So that it also covers some of the things. That is why I did not comment, but I support at the end of the day.
Thank you. Madam Maseti, you did indicate your support. Just confirmation, yes, ma'am, with the questions you've raised, with the comments you've raised. And I do support. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Masike. You got your decision. I'm not sure whether it is still Delisio making it or the next one. Is it Ms. Tanda?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Tswelopele municipality is in Free State. They are proposing an average of 6.95%. This is due to the case whereby NERSA is seated as a second respondent. Municipality is only increasing the energy charge of the said tariff, which is still in dispute with the Senves company. So the basic and the demand charge will remain the same. All the tariffs are within the benchmark. The tariff has been recommended as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanda. Members, any particular questions on this one? If not, by show of hands, members, can we approve the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Maseti. I also support. Ms. Tanda, you've got your decision. Coming to Dr. Konjela, your City Power.
Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon. City Power is applying for an average increase of 7.47. They have high energy losses, so they're losing about 3.6 billion due to energy losses a year. They also have a high selling price of about 86%. So we've limited some of their business tariffs to CPI because they are currently very high. City Power has submitted a cost of supply study, which we are busy reviewing for 23-24. It's quite a complex study because City Power is about 50 intake points from ESCOM. So their study is very complicated, but we are busy with it. Hopefully, the findings of the study will show that maybe some of the tariffs need to decline. But we are recommending the approval of the tariffs. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Konjela. Members, any particular questions, comments on City Power? Something that's unique to them? Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks, Chairperson, Dr. Konjela. I've got a challenge here on the page 84-436, where you're saying that there is a benchmark. You say but now you say there's no benchmark. And then you turn around that you say, however, the average tariff is higher than NERSA benchmark. So I don't know which benchmark are you referring to here? And then what does the CPI tariff do then relative to the benchmark as opposed to the 7.27% that is, being applied for?
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Any other question, members? If not, Dr. Konjela, if you can respond to that, please.
Thanks. I think there was an error there because there is a benchmark on page 85, which is 289 cents. So we probably need to amend that and edit that section there to reflect that there is a benchmark and we've limited it to that benchmark, Chair.
All right, thank you for that. Any other question, members? If not, can we then, by show of hands, members, show approval of the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Madam Massetti, will you be in a position to approve, ma'am? Thank you, Madam Massetti. I also
you can see the delay there.
Yes, I can. I can see the delay, but I can see your hand now. Thanks, ma'am. Okay, I'm also supporting the decision. That's to you, Dr. Konjelayo. The next one is also yours, Mfuleni.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So Mfuleni is also applying for a 7.47% increase. They also have high energy losses, but they are still able to deliver a surplus. We've limited some of the tariffs, for instance, the multi-domestic unit to CPI 4.4%, as well as the agriculture tariff, conventional three-phase has also been limited. Other than that, we recommend approval of the tariffs. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any comments that are unique to this? Madam Massetti?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just want to remind the team here. No, Chair. I want to say that the team must also be reminded that should there be any tariffs that are new, that are introduced, or the tariff structures, they need to point that out because we cannot just approve without the required cost of supply study. That becomes important. So we need that confirmation and assurance from the team on these applications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. So, so this doesn't just apply to this one. So, if there are any changes to the structure, team, please do indicate so and indicate the process that was taken. But you can comment on this one whether there is one. Mr. Mkiza?
Thanks, Chairperson. On page 113, with regard to the agricultural prepaid three-phase, you indicate that the average tariff is above the benchmarks and increasing by the guideline. Why then make an exception here and still increase it instead of increasing it by CPI to keep it within the benchmark?
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Maybe Dr. Konjela, if you can also assist the members here. There's something that does not make sense. Maybe you can assist in terms of, we have a municipality that in terms of the amount of power, that it goes 81% of the power goes to manufacturing. And we've got 7.6 residential customers being on prepaid. Yet we've got energy losses of 24%. Would that be an indication of one, that we also have got manufacturing customers that steal power? Or is it because of illegal connections? If you can just maybe assist us there as well. Over to you, Dr. K.
Thanks, Chair. So on the issue of that agricultural tariff, we did mention that it's only above the benchmark by 2%. We thought if we limit it, there won't be a significant impact. On the issue of prepaid, even prepaid customers do steal electricity. Even industrial customers, they can maneuver the systems, and we've seen cases where they will try and steal electricity. So it could be a combination of all those factors. I hope I've answered those questions.
All right.
Just Chairperson, through you, Chairperson, I'd just like to know what harm will it do then if you keep it below the 7.47 just to make it hit the upper limit of the threshold?
I can do that, Chair. There won't be any harm.
By the way, colleagues, I know I've kind of allowed this one to go through, but was this one of the decisions that we made? Because I'm not sure whether this decision of keeping within guidelines has been held right through, not guidelines, sorry, within benchmarks, of keeping tariffs within benchmarks, whether that has been maintained, that decision has been maintained right through. Can we make a decision on that? That we are, because from what I've understood is that we have agreed that the RSC mandate is within guidelines and below and above guidelines, below and above benchmarks. That is the mandate of the RSC. But I don't recall us actually making a decision or taking a decision or a resolution as a committee that will keep certain tariffs within guidelines, within benchmarks. Is that a decision of the committee members? So that at least we've got a similar decision that applies to all applications. Is that what we are deciding? I'm just concerned that we may apply certain criteria to some applicants and not to all. That if we do, can we have consistency in terms of the decision that we make? Mr. Mkhize, I don't know. I'm just asking here because from where I'm sitting is that we had not made that resolution. But if we do, can we resolve accordingly and then make sure that all of the other applications that we are tackling, we're keeping everybody within benchmarks, because that we have not consistently done. Yes, Mr. Mkhize.
Chairperson, I thought we had consistently asked for that to be done. That is why you've got some that are increasing at CPI, which is 4.1. So we have moved for that where they will still remain when they're way above guidelines. We said we're going to keep them at CPI.
Okay. Madam Aseti?
Oh.
Chairperson, I think.
Yes, Mr. Mkhize. Mr. Mkhize, you are still on?
Oh my goodness.
Mr. Mkhize, you are still on? Your mic is still on?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, and your mic is still on. I thought you had finished, sir. Apologies.
Yes, I'm being load shedded here. Yeah, I'm load shedded here, so I'll try. But all I'm saying, CPI, if still, or keep it below the benchmark. That is the principle for me that I said I thought we had adopted.
Okay, you are indeed struggling, Mr. Mkhize, but we got your point. Madam Aseti, your comments now.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, there will be a possibility of inconsistency, and it has been there before. But we have said that we should try to move towards being objective, and because we want to move away from having these increases that are not cost justified. And we have said as one of our principles when we approved the tariff guidelines this year, that if there's going to be any increase that is above guidelines, that increase must be justified on the basis of cost incurred or the cost to supply by that particular municipality. And that is why the team also informed us that there are some municipalities that have submitted the cost of supply studies to NERSA, which NERSA is still considering them, evaluating them, and I'm sure there will be some decisions later on with regards to those costs and all that. So we were saying that let's rather err on the side of cost justification, rather than moving away from the guidelines and and the guideline increases and all that, and then give them something that they don't deserve at the expense of consumers. So cost at least must be justified. So I think that's one of the principles, Chairperson, that we agreed upon when it comes to increases above the guideline increases.
Thanks, Madam. I think for me the issue is, yes, on the above guideline we are clear. Also, it falls outside of the delegation matrix of the REC anyway. So that one we did agree. I think I'm just concerned about consistency when it comes to benchmarks. Maybe can I give it to you, Dr. Conjulai, to then maybe advise here so that there is consistency. And colleagues, if you do identify those where you have not constrained within benchmarks, please indicate so that at least there is consistency. If the decision of the committee is that we are constraining increases, those that are above benchmarks, we are constraining those to CPI, and if they are, and as long as there is consistency, colleagues, because that's why we get taken to court if we are not seen to be rational. So, Dr. K, if you can maybe just indicate there may be something there that I may have got. Is that your understanding, and that's the understanding of the team?
Thanks, Chair. So yes, I think the idea of constraining everything to CPI that is above the benchmark makes sense. It's just that on this one, the analysis was that if 2% above, but it's not part of the principle. So for consistency, I think we must just limit everything to CPI. It doesn't matter how above the benchmark is, because there is no principle around that to say it should be maybe 5% or 10%. So I agree that maybe we must just do that.
All right. Members, can I show by show of hands that we are resolving accordingly, that all of the increase that are above benchmarks, that there will be constrained to CPI increase? Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkhize, would you agree to that as a decision of the committee? I seem to have lost Mr. Mkhize. Yes, Ms. Leboru?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members, and good afternoon, colleagues. Mr. Gumede, I mean, I'm having a challenge here. If there's going to be a decision where it says that all the above benchmarks must be restricted, there are municipalities that are buying. I thought, there was a condition that if municipality is buying at a NiSafe rural tariff, which is an expensive tariff, more than the normal megawatt. So is that exception not gonna apply for those municipalities? Because I've got one.
Understood, Ms. Leboru. I guess my biggest concern, I think, Madam Massetti, is that we went through a whole lot last week, and this was not a condition. So for consistency, I'd be really challenged, I think, personally, if we were to see that through. Your hand is up, Madam Massetti. I'm talking about benchmarks, not the guideline. The guideline one is clear. It's definitely, if anything above guideline, that needs a cost of supply study, and it's an ELS matter. But it's the benchmarks that were an issue. Madam Massetti. And Mr. Mkhize, back. Yeah.
Chairperson, on the benchmarks, I think I'm persuaded by limiting the increase to the CPI, because the team that should present before us, it must have the facts, because it will be very difficult for any decision of the energy regulator to support anything that is above above the CPI if we don't even have any financial information or cost information that will justify a decision that will grant them anything above the CPI if then it is not within the benchmarks. So that will just be the basis for my side, Chairperson, as to why I agree with limiting to the CPI, unless then the person that presents that application has done a thorough job to have all the information that is necessary to assist the decision maker to make an informed decision. Other than that, we can't risk the energy regulator. We must have information that is supported by the facts. Other than that, Chairperson, I would not be able to support.
Thank you. Mr. Nkiza, I saw your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm having connection problems here, but my understanding is that we're limited to CPI where they've been above benchmark increases. Even if we look at what is on page 9 of 32, which is page 111 of 436, where with this understanding, they've limited the increase to the 4.4, which is CPI, and that has been we've dealt with this matter consistently. It's because even if they were to reduce it at a higher level, it will still be above benchmark. But where you can reduce it and beyond the upper limit of the benchmark, you can. So staying within benchmark, we've consistently done that, in as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I stand corrected. It's a pity. I'm not sure that Mrs. Chotro is here, but I do not recall us doing that last week with the other batch that we did last week. There were some cases where we were limiting, but it was not consistent. And the issue has been raised by Ms. Liburu. It's actually been a real situation. The risk, I think, members, that we are facing is of inconsistency. So I'm not sure if there's anybody from legal. Is Mr. Murati on the call, perhaps, who can assist us here? I know we are eating into, there's load shedding level 6 starting at 4, so hopefully it would be done by then. I'm really still hoping. Mr. Murati?
The person is Mr. Chokwe. I think it's the issue of just getting a comfort there in the manner in which the energy regulator takes decisions. He's in the meeting, Chairperson. I'll request you maybe to ask him to just guide us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Chokwe, can you assist, sir?
Chairperson, good afternoon, and to members and colleagues. I can assist. Of course, it's true that Mr. Murati being closer to the issues have been better, but I can talk the principle. The principle about maybe consistency in terms of whether we should be seeing aligned in terms of all these municipalities is that while it's true that we have to be consistent, but you must understand that there are factors that affect maybe say one municipality that don't affect the other. Therefore, our law will say when we take decisions, they have to be consistent with the constitution and the law that we apply, rather than actually they shouldn't necessarily be similar or same, because in two municipalities you can give two different decisions as long as you can justify those to say we did this on this one because of these factors, we did this because, but it's true the line of rationality should be the same. But they shouldn't just be same decisions for all municipalities. I'm talking just a principle, Chairperson. I'm not addressing the real issues. I think I'm helping, but my point is that whilst we should be going after the consistency, we have to make sure that when factors are not the same, we are not forced to actually be saying we have done this with municipality A, we have to do the same with municipality B. As long as we can actually explain our decision to say the reason why we did B on municipality A is because of this reason. Let me stop here, Chairperson. Mr. Murati and LAS, who are actually close to these issues, they would have been better than me on this one. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. All right, colleagues. So for the decision here, if we can then agree, okay, the decision of the committee is that we will limit to within benchmarks as well. So we are restricted to limit the thing that we can tackle. Anything that is above guidelines clearly does not belong here, belong somewhere else. But within benchmarks, we will limit anything that is increases above guideline, above benchmarks to CPI, except where there could be an explicit indications by the presenter in terms of why we should not. So, Ms. Liburu, I'm hoping that you'll be covered with that decision. If that is, and maybe just to get confirmation by members if I've captured that decision correctly. So it's within benchmarks, but it's within benchmarks. If it's above benchmarks, limit between inflation. But if it's above, then the presenter needs to justify so that at least there is a decision on that. I see Mr. Mkize, you are supporting that decision, or you want to say something?
No, I wanted to say something, with your permission, Chair, to say if we may say that we will bring it within benchmarks. If it still is still, if with the lower limit being CPI, for example, if 7 will bring it within benchmark, we make it 7%. But if still it doesn't, it goes up until you need to make it 2%. We'll then have to make it 4. Just keep it to CPI. That is my understanding, and still remain above benchmark. That was my understanding, and what we did previously.
All right, with the proviso that for those cases where it can be justified, we can still not limit it to benchmarks, which is the issue that was raised by Ms. Liburu. Were justified. That's what I was adding, members. Are we happy with that decision?
Chairperson, from my side, remember the exercise that we are doing in taking decisions. It's not an exercise of where we can actually base our decisions on assumptions, or just to be consistent for the sake of being consistent. The point that I was making earlier is that if there is an increase that is proposed, which is above benchmark, we have made that decision even prior to coming to the individual applications as of today. We had said that anything that is then above benchmark, it must be justified by cost. Remember, we don't have the cost of supply of these municipalities, which is required by the law. Now, if you move away from what you said, this is going to be our mechanism of approving, coming to, because we're taking the aggregate here, and then we put all of this aggregate without comparing what are the actual costs to this municipality of supplying. We haven't applied ourselves to that. We're simply taking an average. Now, if we're moving away from that mechanism of using that average, where we said this is just a benchmark, we consider this benchmark to be at least a best approximation of what cost we could allow. It's a best approximation. Now, anything that is moving away from that approximation without facts on the cost applicable to that municipality, I will not approve, Chairperson. I will have a problem because we will not be able to defend our decision. And we had stated that this municipality, then you must justify. We can't give you a higher cost from what we said. This is at least a reasonable approximation without any other information based on the cost. So we do say that take the merits of each case and the circumstances. All of that must be justified by the facts. So there is no staff member who can then say, no, this municipality is like that. They must tell us where are the costs that will make it easier for us to agree with them in terms of allowing something that is above the benchmark. It's easy as that, Chairperson. I don't think that there's something that is complicated there. So we will not get into a chemical exercise or a scientific exercise. It's an exercise that is justified by the cost and the facts that are presented before us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. I rest my case, and so team, I don't know if you want to say something, Ms. Matlaku or Dr. K, you because you are the ones presenting this. Dr. K?
Thanks, Chair. No, I just wanted to support what Mr. Liburu was saying in terms of I had one municipality last time. It's in the Northern Cape, in Namakoi. So the challenge that side is that the population is very what's the correct word? So there are two distances between each municipality. So they are on a rural tariff. So they pay more to Eskom, but they are not able to pass on those costs to their customers. So, but what we did with that one was to show the difference between the selling price and the buying price, so that you can see that it was below average. But it does happen in such instances. Thanks, Chair.
All right. I'll leave it to you, colleagues, to actually deal with that as you as the members have called. And so can we then move to a decision on this one then, members? I know it's taken me forever on this one. Apologies for that, for the delay. But can I see by show of hands and members whether you approve the decision with that particular tariff being constrained to below to CPI to ensure that it stays below benchmarks? Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkize, will you support that decision? Mr. Mkize, are you still on the call? I see you, but are you able to raise your hand? Assist with decision? I do support. So I guess if I support Mr. Chokwe, Mr. Mkize is on the call, but is unable to vote. Would that with the vote by the two members be good for the decision?
Chairperson, if it's on the call and the two members are agreeable, there is no tie, then we can proceed, Chairperson.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mkize. I see your hand is up now. Can I then move on? Can we move on to Ms. Khadima on Merafong?
Thank you, Chair. Merafong is situated in the Gauteng province and is applying for guideline increase of 7.47. The tariffs are within the benchmark. Looking at the financial indicators of municipalities is not satisfactory, indicated by higher energy loss and higher deficit. However, if the municipality were to reduce the energy loss to 12%, it will have a deficit, it will have a surplus of 16%. The municipality has submitted the energy loss report, but municipality indicate that they do not have funds at the moment. However, they are engaging with other stakeholders for funding. We therefore recommend for approval.
Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Members, any comments on this one?
Chairperson? Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think maybe it's one of those things that we also need to, because we can see this municipality is not performing very well. But in addition to that, this municipality used about 7% of the budget for repair and maintenance. And if you look at the nature of the problems in this municipality, you would have expected that they will do something to try and avert some of these problems and also reduce the energy losses. But it has not done so, yet it has increased its consumption of that budget. Now, this then requires us as a regulator then, because if it's not improving the financial situation, we keep pumping in some money in it, and it uses more for repair and maintenance. Do we actually monitor what the municipality utilized that budget for? Do we even get a plan that will show that, okay, we will take from the money that the regulator allows us to recover or recoup from customers? Some of this money will put aside to make sure that our network is proper. Now it uses more, but we don't see the value at the end of the day. So the regulator is just giving them the money, but do we even get the plan as to what is the plan for utilizing this budget for what it is, for the intended purpose of repair and maintenance? Firstly, the budget and the plan. Secondly, the monitoring of the execution of that plan, so that we can see whether now this 7% that was utilized out of the money that we gave the municipality has been used appropriately so that at least it can reduce some of these challenges. It is one of those requirements. I mean, a straightforward thing like this. So it is also important in the analysis that that kind of analysis and approach, it also comes out, and it doesn't on this one. And I think in other applications, I think that must come out. We have said it in the past few years that there must be a budget, and that budget, as well as the plan, the execution of it, and the monitoring of that money that was given must also be something that we do as the regulator. Thanks, Chair. That is my comment on this one, because they spent more, but the situation is just bad.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkiza, I see your hand is up, sir.
Yeah, I was just saying that we need just to cater that in, like when we're looking at the analysis that should follow once they were completed these approvals, like we did last time, but they must just be more stringent around this, and that will then help to correct the situation going forward. Because you recall, Chairperson, that even this whole issue of repairs and maintenance, which was raised as a bit of a challenge because it bears no semblance to the let's say the stage and the capex or the capital amount attached to those assets in terms of the valuations. So it's something that still needs to be refined, and I think that they must really do a proper analysis when it comes to the presentations that they're going to make post this phase, like they did last year, and improve, incorporating all the comments that have been provided, so that you can just move with speed through this process that you are embarking on right now.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm just emphasizing the point of doing that analysis, but saying that this then should apply to the rest and be included as part of what the team is going to bring back to present to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. And I think, as we had agreed last year, that we will definitely have a post applications report, which will be presented, I think, to ELS. We had agreed that these issues that have been raised, members, I think the team will then take into account. My request, members, okay, firstly, can we move to a decision on this? And then I'll let you raise my request. Can we, okay, would you want to respond to the questions asked or comments raised, Ms. Mukhadi?
Yes, Vice Chair. With regard to the spending was spent on 2021. We are hoping that in the financial of 2021 and 22, there will be some changes.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, colleagues, with that comment, can I then move us to a decision? And I do have a request that I'd like to make, members. But can I move us to a decision on this one? The recommendation is on page 143 of 436. So is this the right one? Yeah, it is the right. Is it the correct one? Yeah, that is the correct one. Thanks, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkiza, would you support that recommendation?
Supported.
Thank you. Members, I just got one request. We are on application number 8. We've got 49 of these. And clearly, we have raised issues, I think, members, and these issues are probably going to be fairly similar throughout these, except one or two cases. Can I really request that we try to go for a speedy decision making? We have made these principled decisions. There will be issues that are very peculiar to each of these applications. But members, if we have not raised that issue before for any of the applications, can I really request that we will then seek for a proper report, a post-mortem, if you like, which is what was done even last year, for all of the issues that we've raised, but looking at each of these applications. Because at this rate, we will not finish, members, especially Mr. Mkize is supposed to leave at 2:15. So that's going to be my request, members. Madam Maseti.
Chairperson, I agree with that report, with that request, and we will try. The only thing is with the presenters. We have set out right at the beginning the format of presenting the issues and anticipating the issues, because we get to situations where the budgets are above what NERSA has approved. But when they have their issues that which they know better, they can just touch very quickly in about 1 minute or 1.5 minutes to say, here are the key issues that we would like you to consider here. We take them, the matter is read, but here are the key issues. We depend entirely on them. Because if they can do that, it then reduces the time that we take to question things that we can see in the submission. Otherwise, Chairperson will follow your guidance there, but the team must do its bit to assist the members so that we don't have to raise the questions, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Massetti. So with that, members are really, and also remember, colleagues, it's really up to us how we present. But we could suppose we were only left with 30 minutes of the allotted 2 hours for this, and we are only in item number 8. If we can please assist members. Thank you. With that, can we then move on back to you, Dr. Conjolayo Midval?
Thanks, Chair. Midval is applying for an increase of 7.47%. Their losses are sitting at 4.5%. The biggest issue with Midval is the residential IPTs, especially block 3 and 4. So I've limited block 3 and 4 to 4.4. But I'm not sure, maybe in terms of the principle, I should have limited all the blocks, because the first 2 blocks are not making that much of a surplus, Chair. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Members, any particular unique question to this one, to Midval? If not, by show of hands, members, if we can. Yes, Madam Massetti.
Chairperson, it was short and sweet from Dr. Kunjulai, and he has actually pointed us to something that he says he's unsure about. Surely then it calls for us to give guidance before we take a decision to the limitation of those blocks, taking into account the impact on consumers on those blocks. So maybe for consistency and also to limit the impact, Mr. Kunjulai, we can then direct that as part of our decision, if he can also limit those other blocks for Midval. That's the only reason I am raising my hand. Thank you, Chairperson, because there's guidance there. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. So the decision, Dr. K, is one that says it's what you propose, but for those tariffs that are above benchmarks, that those you're going to limit to CPI. With that, members, can we then take a decision? By show of hands. Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza, would you support that decision? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Dr. K, you've got your decision. The next municipality is Edumbe Municipality. Mr. Mandla. Please remember the issues. Please remember the issues that the members have raised, please. Please proceed. All right, noted, Chair. So at Dumbe Municipality, one of the problems with it is that it's making high losses, and as such, it has a huge deficit. And owing to those losses, if it were to curb them to 12%, the surplus would be at 9%. The municipality cited a number of things that caused such losses, and has put in place a number of remedial actions that are trying to curb such losses. However, some of these were implemented mostly in the year of the deforms. So we hope that moving forward we'll see a difference. And every other comment that was made regarding high losses and the way forward has been noted. And then the increases are all 7.47% in line with the guideline. And then there's only one tariff, the industrial tariff. It is increasing by, the average tariff is 275.31, but the higher end of the benchmark is 275.29. So it's higher by 0.03. Thank you very much. Thank you. So what you are saying is that you still request that it still also be increased at 7.47, correct? Industrial tariff, is that what you are saying, or you want to limit that?
No, Chair. Should it be required, I can limit it to the higher end, the upper ceiling of the benchmark.
Okay. So, members, the decision that is sought, therefore, is that either he limits it to the higher end of the benchmark, in terms of the increase, that therefore it means that increase would be lower for that particular tariff, would be lower than the guideline. So that is a decision that is sought from us by show of hands, members. If we are in agreement with the decision, limiting. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Madam Assetti. Mr. Mandla, you've got a decision, so you've got to limit it to the higher end of the benchmarks. The next one, Msunduzi, is yours again. Mandla.
Thank you very much, Chair. With Msunduzi, it's doing relatively well in terms of our benchmarks, except for the losses that are at 22.40%. Should they be limited to 12%, it would be making a surplus of 13.59. All the increases were limited. Some of the increases were in line with the guidelines, some were slightly above and were limited to be within guideline. There is, however, one or two errors identified on page 173 for the S3.2, S3.3 tariff. The basic charge seems to be decreasing because a wrong number was used for the approved in 2021-22. It's supposed to be 149.24. And then the benchmark on page 175 is incorrect as well. It's a very it says 136 to 141 instead of 289.78 to 301.04. Save for that, I recommend that the tariffs be approved as recommended. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mandla. With those changes, members, can I see by show of hands if we can approve the recommendation, which is on page 179?
I approve with two things, Chairperson, which I thought he could add there on the issues to follow up with the municipality. In fact, it's a glaring issue. The issue of the fact that it has utilized more of that repair and maintenance and is working with ESCOM to try and do some maintenance backlog. There is some maintenance backlog. It seems to me, it indicates why so much money of the total electricity sales was then taken for purposes of repair, but it is not addressed in the right place. So it may well be reported by September 2022, Chairperson. I approve with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mkiza, I assume you are approving? Thank you. I also support. If we can then move to your next one, Mr. Mandla, Rain.
Thank you very much, Chair. Rinkonyeni is performing fairly well in terms of our benchmarks, and they are applying for all the increases that are in line with the guideline. I request that I recommend that this be approved as recommended, with correction of the error in page 187 for standard tariff high season. It says 0.00, but the approved tariff is 122.41. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that correction, members, show of hands, can we approve? Thank you, Madam Assetti. Mr. Mkiza, I know you're struggling with your hand there.
I approve.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. All right. The next one is Mr. Kekana on Elias Mtwaledi.
Thank you, Chair. Elias Mtwaledi.
Oh, right. Apologies. That's apologies.
Elias Mtwaledi local municipality is situated in the Limpopo province. The municipality is applying for a 7.47 guideline. It has a decreased surplus. It has some high energy losses. It's got a low ASP-APP ratio. And the industrial agricultural tariffs are not added for it. Thank you.
We keep losing you there, Potato.
I therefore recommend for approval. Okay.
Ms. Kekana, we keep losing you, but please proceed.
Chairperson, the industrial, commercial, and the agricultural tariffs are not aligned to the benchmarks. I recommend for approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, it wasn't quite clear what you were saying. If they are not aligned, are they higher? Are they lower? And are you restricting? I guess that's what
They are below, Chairperson.
Oh, they are below. Okay, thank you. All right, members, with that presentation, the decision that is sought is on page 203. By show of hands, members, if we can approve that. Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Thank you, Madam Massetti. The next one is Mr. Ndise Makado.
Thank you, Chairperson. Makado is situated in Limpopo province. They are applying for a guideline increase of 7.47%. All the tariffs are within or below the benchmarks. None is above, and they are not proposing any structural change or new tariffs. We therefore recommend for the tariff to be approved for implementation 1st July. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ndise. Members, Mr. Mkiza, your hand was lingering, but can I assume that you are voting on this one as well, Madam Massetti? I note your hand. I also support. Mr. Mkiza? It was a lingering hand.
Supported.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. The next one is back to you, Mr. Ndise Mohalakwen.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mohalakwen is also situated in Limpopo province. They are applying for a guideline increase of 7.47%. When we look at the indicators, the biggest challenge for them is a lower collection rate at 85% and also high energy losses. But the tariffs are increasing by guideline and they are all within or below the benchmarks. We therefore recommend for those tariffs to be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Taking into account all of the comments that have been previously raised by members on these issues, especially on losses. Members, the decision that is sought is on page 222. Can I see by show of hands, members, if we can approve that recommendation? Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza? I can't see Mr. Mkiza now. I think we've lost him.
Supported.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't see you on the screen. The problem is that there's only 3 of us, so I'm always worried about quorum. So if we lose you, I think we may not necessarily correct. Okay, thank you. I also support that as a decision. The next one is back to you, Ms. Kekane. It is Mule.
Mule municipality is
Chairperson?
Yes,
Chairperson. It's my request. If she's unable to improve the sound from her side, it will be a problem because this meeting is open to the members of the public, and they are following it through our social media cards. So it will not be appropriate, and we also we are struggling to hear, but we're also assisted by our iPads. So I think we need some improvement there. If the HOD is there or any other person, the EM must be there to assist. Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you. Tabisa, are you in a position to help? Because, yes, Ms. Kekana, you are actually barely audible. So I don't know whether you can try to improve. Let's hear you have a go at it first.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mulamula municipality, is situated in the Limpopo. The municipality is applying for a 7.5 guideline increase. The tariffs are in the NERSA benchmarks. The municipality has had issues with the percentage surplus has increased, and they have a low APP ASP and some high energy losses. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. All right. Can I just request, if you're going to make any further inputs, please, you need to sign off and sign back on. You are barely audible, or rather, you can ask somebody else to assist you with the presentation. With that, members, can I take you to the decision that is sought, or are you in a position, decision on page 231 of 437, are you able to support those recommendations? By show of hands. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkiza? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. I also support. The next one is, we're back to you, Mr. Mdise Tabazimbi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Tabazimbi is also located in Limpopo Province. They are applying for guideline increase of 4.74% for this financial year. The challenge with their performance is high energy losses, sitting at 21.77%. But when we look at the tariffs, all the tariffs are increasing by guideline. They are within or below the benchmarks. We therefore recommend for those tariffs to be approved for implementation 1st July 2022. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Mdisa. Taking into account all the previous comments made by members, the decision that sought, members, is on page 244. By show of hands, members, would you support that recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, members. I also support. Dipali Singh, that's Ms. Tanda. Your hand is lingering, Mr. Mkiza.
Good afternoon. Dipali Singh is proposing an average tariff of 7.47. All tariffs are within the benchmark. However, the industrial tariff is increased by 10.7%. It was reduced to decrease to be in line with the benchmark. The municipality requested to increase higher because the industrial tariff, it's one customer, which is current beef, and they felt that the energy charge is less. But however, I have increased in line with the benchmark. I propose all the tariffs to increase as proposed.
Can I get clarity? When you say, because they applied for guideline increase, the applied increase is 10.7, the guideline increase is 7.47. So that 10.70, is that what we are proposing be increased, or are you limiting the increase to 7.47? If we can
only the industrial tariff.
No, but what are you saying about that, Ms. Tanda? Are you saying we are recommending it be increased at 10.7, or are you saying it be increased at 7.47?
At 10.7 to be in line with the benchmark.
All right. As indicated before, that is not the mandate of the REC, number one. So the guideline, anything that has got guidelines higher than an increase that is higher than guideline cannot be handled by the REC. So it's a choice. Do you limit that to a guideline increase of 7.47, or that particular one would need to be tackled by the ELS?
I will limit to 7.47.
All right, thank you. So that's a decision that we are saying that 10.7 would be limited to 7.47. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Members, the decision is on page 255 with that correction. Can I see by show of hands if you agree with that, with the recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Madam Maseti, would you support that decision? I can't see you, ma'am. I do support.
Yes, I support, Chairperson.
Thank you. I can't see your hand. All right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Kekane, Emalahleni.
Thank you, Chairperson. Emalahleni municipality in the Mpumalanga province. The municipality applying.
Your reception, your sound is not great. Honestly, I don't think we can accommodate us, but as indicated by Madam Maseti, we also this is being broadcast for other people. I don't know what you may need to do, but your sound is not great now. Tabisa, please assist.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll present Emalahleni.
Thank you, ma'am. Please proceed.
With Emalahleni, Chairperson, the municipality is applying for an increase of 7.47 as per the guideline. When looking at the financial indicators, we see that the municipality operated at a deficit, and there's also high energy losses. And there are some scenarios that have been done to indicate if the municipality had operated within the NERSA benchmarks. And then there's also that scenario of the high energy losses. If the municipality had energy losses that are within the benchmarks, it could have seen a deficit of less than 67%, which would have been 54%. And when we go to the tariffs, all the tariffs are applied for within the guideline and within the benchmarks. It is therefore recommended that they be approved as applied for by the municipality, considering all the issues that have been raised by the members. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Mpopo. Madam, sorry, members, the decision that is sought is on page 275. Can we, by show of hands, see if we support those decisions, those recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. Thank you, Madam Maseti. The next municipality is in Nkomazi. And please proceed, Tavis. Ms. Nkopo, if you can please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Nkomazi municipality is situated in the Mpumalanga province. The municipality is applying for a 7.47% guideline increase. The municipalities' domestics are above the benchmarks. Domestic tariffs are above the benchmarks. They have been limited. And the municipality has issues with the percentage surplus, the increased deficit, and high energy losses. I therefore recommend for approval.
Thank you. You sound a whole lot better. Tabisa, your hand is still up. I think you were raising your hand to assist, but Kutatso is sounding a whole lot better now. Members, the decision that is sought is on page 284. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti. Thank you, Madam Maseti. I also support. The next one is back to you again, Ms. Gekane, Tabachwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Tabachwe municipality is situated in the Mpumalanga province. The municipality is applying for a 7.47% guideline increase, and the municipality has issues with the percentage surplus, but the deficit has decreased. The municipality has indicated that it entered into a waiver agreement with Eskom, so the surplus for the current year would reflect a decreased surplus. It also had issues with the ASP-APP ratio, a low ASP-APP ratio, and high energy losses. Excuse me. Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to correct an error on tariff 2.5. Tariff 2.5, where I would like to restate the benchmarks and restate the tariffs. The tariffs must be applied as applied for by the municipality. Another thing is that the public benefits tariffs are above the benchmarks. I therefore recommend for approval. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, we are quite unclear. When we say the tariffs are above benchmark, then clearly indicate that we are seeking a decision where you limit the increase to below 7.47, if that's what we are requesting the members to do.
Chairperson, they are above the benchmarks. I have limited them.
All right, thank you. All right, members, there is a presentation on Tabachwe. The decision that is sought is on page 307. By show of hands, members, with that correction that was made, if you can indicate your support. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Maseti. I also
Chairperson?
Yes,
Chairperson? Yes, I do support. It's just that within this very same municipality, there are areas where you've just asked the question. There are areas where they say we limit it to the upper end of the benchmark, right? And then in some, they say it is above benchmark, but we have limited it using the inflation as the tool. So there are those two inconsistencies in one municipality in terms of our approach, without explaining why in one we say we limit to the upper end of the benchmark, and then in certain instances in those tariffs, we then increase them by inflation. Just those two things that are happening in this municipality. Our decision there is not consistent.
Well, if I may, through you, Chairperson.
Yes, please explain.
Normally, my approach would be that if you have a high tariff that is above the benchmarks, and the nearest amount can be, you can arrive at the benchmarks, the nearest amount, then you use the upper limit. But if the tariff is further apart from the benchmarks, then you would have to reduce to the the CPI of 4.4, since you can't go any further than that. So that normally is the approach that I use.
Thank you. And it's an approach, I guess, has been used by most. So perhaps it needs to be explained proper. I think, Ms. Kekana, that's what everybody uses, I guess. I see your hand was up, Mr. Mkhize. Was it approval? Before I come back to you, Madam Maseti.
It's for approval, but I just want to stress the fact that my understanding, as I also put on the chat, is that it is the upper bound of the benchmark. If you can go down to try to reduce, if it still remains below for the CPI, you will then have to use the CPI as the lowest. That was my understanding of what we had agreed upon. Thank you.
Yes, it is correct. Madam Maseti, I see, is the follow-up now?
It is the follow-up, Chairperson, and it should not be individual's approach, because at the end of the day, if we're not aligned, it's not an individual approach. It's supposed to be the principal approach by NERSA. And here, for instance, if you look at that tariff we're talking about, because you need to know the nature of the tariff we're dealing with here and the nature of customers, because we're dealing with the one that the 80 amps converted into kVA, maximum demand. Then you will see in the low season as well as the high season and the demand charge. If you look at that and look at the benchmark below on the average tariff, that's what I'm talking about here, because there then the issue was to just increase it by 4.4%. And why was it not taken then to that upper benchmark? What is the reason? We need an economic reason, which will then tell us what the impact is going to be on those customers. That's the economic reason, not to say that my approach is this, just the write-up of the economic reason for that approach. That's what is needed.
Is it clear, Ms. Keka?
Noted, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you. So if you can maybe just write up that again as part of the amendment or the enhancement of this decision. With that, members, by show of hands, are you with the changes, the proposed changes that we've made? And again, I must indicate, thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I must admit, it is a general application that it's the first attempt is the upper bound. If that's still too high, then the increase will then be limited to CPI. It is a general approach. Thank you. Colleagues, we are almost at 4. Can I request your indulgence that we go at this until we finish this? It's not like we have a choice, members. With your indulgence, if we can allow, at least we can go, we should target to finish by 12:30. We are only dealing with, this is the number 21 that we're dealing with now. But we have picked up the pace. So can I just ask for another half an hour? We should be done by half an hour. The next presentation is Ms. Leburu, Dr. Beyers Nodia.
Thank you, Chairperson. Dr. Beyers Nodia is a measure situated in the Eastern Cape province. It is applying for an average increase of 7.47%. The municipality had an implementation strategy to rationalize their mesh tariff for 3 years. And as you can see, the municipality has improved in terms of their energy losses that have gone down, even though they are operating at a surplus, a small percentage of surplus. All their tariffs are increasing within the benchmarks and in line with the guideline increase, except for the domestic low indigent tariff, taking into consideration the decision by the members and the issues that were raised previously. The third block and the fourth block of the indigent tariff was increasing by 9.47%, and it has been reduced to increase by 7.47%. With that, Chairperson, we recommend that the tariffs be approved as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leboro. The decision, colleagues, that is sought is on page 322. Madam Assetti, or was it a decision? Okay.
Approval. Yeah.
Oh, approval. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm just saying also it's a very good improvement, Chairperson, by that municipality. It has been doing very badly, but with the merger, it has improved. And not that it's I'm a bit which is Jansanville, about 100 kilometers away from home. But it's good.
Okay. All right. So you should declare interest. Anyway, that's just tongue in cheek. Okay, so you have voted for approval. Mr. Mkhize, would you also support approval? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. The next one is Ms. Matlo Elundi.
Okay, thanks, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. Elenduni Municipality is situated in the Eastern Cape. They are applying for an increase that is within the guideline of 7.47. The financial and technical performance of the municipality is not satisfactory, and the municipality is currently working with the DPSA with regards to the reduction of energy losses, and with regards to the tariffs that were above the benchmarks were limited, and we therefore recommend for approval. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam. Any comments, members? If not, by show of hands, the decision is on page 336, members. By show of hands, if we can approve. Thank you, Madam Assetti. I also support approval. Mr. Mkhize? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. The next presentation is Emalahleni Local Municipality, Eastern Cape. Ms. Leburu?
Yes, thanks, Chairperson. Emalahleni Eastern Cape Municipality is situated in the Eastern Cape, is applying for a 7.47% increase. This municipality is buying at a nice, safe rural tariff, which is more expensive than the normal mega flex. So we have done a simulation just to compare the buying at mega flex and the nice, safe rural. So you would see that different customer categories would see a different markup. Municipality will be making a lower markup as compared to the normal 58% of the mega flex. So different customer categories will see different markups. I would like to make a correction. There was an error in terms of the surplus level. Here I indicated that there is an improvement, which is not an improvement. The surplus level has gone down. And that was essentially due to the increase. The municipality is spending more on their total expenditure due to the NMD penalty charges and the finance cost, which is based on the interest on overdue account. However, the municipality's energy losses have improved as they are working towards the 12% that is been recommended by NERSA of the approved guideline. Benchmark. 12% benchmark of the energy losses. The municipality has also, provided a report which they are working towards applying for a cheaper tariff, which is trying to convert from a nice safe rural to a mega flex tariff. Their tariffs based on that, they will vary, and we recommend that the tariffs be approved as proposed by the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, there is a plea here that because they are buying at night safe, there are tariffs that are above benchmark levels, but the increases are actually in line with the guideline. That's the recommendation. I see your hand is up, Madam Massetti. Your question, comments, please, ma'am? Or are you in support of the decision?
Yes, Chairperson. I support this decision subject to the enhancement of the reason, because nobody is going to understand that the night save, rural, and the mega flex, oh well, it's just the benchmark, the mega flex anyway. So what is needed there is to indicate that the reason why we allow the tariff to be above benchmark is just the cost justification, because it needs to recover the cost, which is that tariff, which is at the night save rural, as well as allowing or to allow a reasonable markup. That is the basis there. And that's what it means, as opposed to use the terminology of the tariffs, because that's what we're doing. So it's justified by cost because the night save rural is higher, and therefore you can't therefore benchmark it to a lowest mega flex, which is Eskom, when Eskom is charging them a very high tariff. So it's to cover the cost as well as to allow a reasonable markup. That will be the reason there to be given.
Thank you.
On 5 and the others.
Thank you, Madam. That is an enhancement, Ms. Leburu, in terms of the decisions, not just so. Yes, night save makes sense, but it means it's a higher cost of the cost of goods sold is actually higher. But with that, Ms. Massetti, you've indicated support, but with that enhancement, Mr. Mkhize, would you support the decision? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. The next one is back to you again, Ms. Leburu, Enoch Mkijima.
Enoch Mkijima is also a major situated in the Eastern Cape. This is one of the non-performing major in the province, and based on the members' request of the report to be submitted in September to list all the municipalities in terms of their performance and non-performance, I think Enoch Mkijima will be one of those, will be at the top of the list in the Eastern Cape province. The municipality is operating at almost 50% energy losses, and then it's also operating at the deficit. So the revenue that has been foregone by the municipality is about 179 million rands. So the municipality, we are in communication with our license department so that it could be, in the list of those municipalities that are supposed to be audited and be monitored closely for them to improve their performance. The municipality is applying for a 7.47% increase in terms of their tariffs, and all the tariffs are increasing in line within the benchmarks. We therefore recommend for approval. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam. Colleagues, the decision that is sought with all of the issues that have been raised is on page 363. By show of hands, members, would you support the decision? Recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Massetti, thank you, Madam Massetti. Ms. Leburu, you've got your decision. The next one is still yours, Great Car.
Great Car is still situated in the Eastern Cape province. I've taken members' decision and issues raised into account. There were tariffs that were increasing. I didn't have any justification for keeping them lower above, slightly above the guideline. I thought it was just a matter of cents, a small cents. So those tariffs will be reduced to increase by CPI because some of them are already above the benchmark. Otherwise, all the tariffs are increasing in line with the guideline increase and within the benchmarks. The municipality is also not performing, and it is operating at a deficit level. The energy losses, however, have slightly improved. I therefore recommend for approval by the members as proposed by the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, with that, with the indications of the changes that are going to be made, enhancements are going to be made, the decision on page 374. Any comments, questions, Madam Maseti?
Yes, Chairperson, a quick one, because I will have an issue where, for instance, on table 5, because these are domestic customers and there are benchmarks there. Why do we allow an increase that is above benchmarks on domestic customers? I mean, if you look at the consumption there is 0 up to 50 kilowatts. 50 kilowatts is actually nothing. They will probably just use it maybe for the fridges to put their medicine and maybe just and for the lights. So if now it is increasing even for that, it means what is it that they're going to have? And these are domestic customers. I would not support an increase of about 137, because it means in mind we must also be aware of that impact that this will have on customers. I mean, 7.38% is a lot. So that increase on block 1 is too much.
Thank you.
It is too much.
Yes, I had heard, but maybe Ms. Leburu, you can clarify. I'd heard you saying that you limit all of those that are above benchmark to CPI. Correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes, Chairperson. I indicated that the reason why I didn't increase them was I didn't have any justification, so they will be brought down to CPI.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, I heard you say that. So that was the decision that we sought, Madam Maseti, that all those that are with the tariffs that are above benchmarks will be contained to no more than CPI increase, because they're already above benchmark. So that is the decision that is sought, members, and that is on page 374 by show of hands, members, if we can support that decision with that enhancement that has been proposed by Ms. Leburu. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti, would you support that with that change? Thank you, Madam Maseti. The next one is back to you, Ms. Matlo. Gogama.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Gogama municipality is situated in the Eastern Cape. There is a little improvement on this municipality because in the previous year they were operating at a deficit and now they are operating at a surplus of 5.68. The customer profile of this municipality is mainly for domestic, as the municipality is only servicing 30% and the rest is supplying by Eskom. And the challenges with this municipality is that the customer profile is on domestic with low consumption, and their customers normally consume on the first 2 blocks. And this resulted in the municipal. And another challenge is that the municipality is buying at a night safe, which is expensive. And based on that, I recommend that the tariff for this municipality be approved, because it's only a domestic customer profile municipality and there are no industrial customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Members, the decision that's sorted on page 381 with the explanation provided by show of hands. Can we approve? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, would you support approval? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. You've got Gogama twice, actually, Madam Matlo. I was not sure what was going on here. There's another one.
Okay. Gogama, it was presented at the last meeting and it was not approved. Hence, I brought it back. I think maybe it was a typo, or that is the reason why I presented it today.
Oh, okay. Apologies. Okay. No, thank you. Noted. Where am I now? Sorry, I've just now lost my train of thought. So the next one is Makana, right?
Yes, Makana is situated in the Eastern Cape province. They are applying for a 7.47% increase. The municipality is also not performing well, with the energy losses that are increasing, the deficit level also declining. So the tariffs are all increasing in line with the guideline increase. Those tariffs that are above the benchmarks have been limited to increase by CPY or CPI plus 1, depending on whether they've already been above the benchmark. I therefore recommend that the tariffs be approved as proposed by the municipality.
Thank you, Madam. Members, the decision that is sought is on page, sorry, why am I delaying this card? Is on page 407. By show of hands, members, if we can approve the decision. By show of hands. Thank you, Madam Asedi. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. You've got a decision.
Chairperson, I approve, Chairperson, but just the concern is the 100% increase on the repair and maintenance budget that it has taken from the electricity sales. 14%, yet it is still struggling in terms of energy losses and tampering with the meters and all that. Can we get a plan there really to see what that 100% increase was used for? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Noted. Madam Leboro? The request?
Yes, it's noted, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. The next one is Madam Matlo, Sakisizwe.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Sakisizwe municipality is situated in the Eastern Cape. They are applying for an increase that is within the guideline of 7.47. The financial and technical performance of the municipality is not satisfactory, and the municipality is currently working with MISA in addressing the high energy losses. And with regards to the tariff, the tariff are increasing. Hello?
Or is it me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear Ms. Matlo there.
Okay,
Wait.
Thank you.
I'm back,
Okay.
sorry, it was just me.
Okay. Another thing to note is that even though the energy losses and the percentage surplus are still above the benchmarks, they are really trying to reduce it. I think, another challenge might be because they are buying at a nice safe hands. That's the challenge, and we therefore recommend the tariff for approval.
Thank you. Members, the decision that's sought, that is sought is page 419. Thank you, Madam Aseti. Is that a decision or a questionnaire? A decision. Thank you. Mr. Mkhize, would you support the decision? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. The next one is still yours, Madam Matlo, Walter Sisulu.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Walter Sisulu is situated in the Eastern Cape. It was formed through the amalgamation of Harib and Maletswai, and then they have, with regards to the financial and technical performance, is a consolidated. They have a consolidated account, and the only difference is they have the individual areas of supply for Harib and Maletswai. And with regards to the technical and financial performance, they are not satisfactory. The municipality has measures in place in trying to reduce the energy losses, even though the percentage deficit and the energy losses, they are above the NESA benchmarks. But when we compare the previous year and this current year, they are really trying to reduce, and we therefore recommend the tariff for approval. Thanks.
Thank you. You've got those tariffs. Please talk to the tariffs under small commercial. That's 7.74. Ms. Matlo? Am I still audible?
Yes, you are still audible, Chair.
All right. I was just saying please talk to table 3.
Table 3.
Yes, the small commercial phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you've just swapped those numbers around. It says 7.74.
I think I have swapped the numbers around, Chair. My apologies, it's a typo error.
All right. Okay, thank you. Members, with that correction, the decision that is sought is on page 435 by show of hands. Can we approve? Thank you, Madam Aseti. Mr. Mkiza, thank you, Mr. Mkiza. I also support. So we now move on to the last batch. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm just scrolling back up again. The last batch is Dr. Konjelayo.
Thanks, Chair. The Kaitong and the next one, Jomorolong, they have the same challenge, which is applicable to most of the municipalities in the Northern Cape. The difference between the selling price and the purchase price. In fact, the Kaitong's selling price is lower than the purchase price. So they also have issues with losses and a deficit. But we did not limit any of their tariffs due to the fact that if you look at the calculations done, it shows that their purchase price, sorry, their selling price is much lower than the selling price. So we recommend approval. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, members, any comments on this one? With no comments, the decision that is sought.
Chair?
Yes, Madam Aseti.
Chair, it is just unless it is justified by the high tariff, but I mean the level of increase is high. I do hear the fact that it is still within benchmarks, but we cannot just take everybody up on the benchmark by increasing the tariff with a high price, because that will affect the ability to pay, or the affordability aspect, because of the level of increase to get to the benchmark. So I see on the first one, where we analyze there, number one, of the IBTs there, that the increasing, the level of increase is above the guideline increase. Can we get explanation as to why that is allowed? What is the justification?
Ma'am, I'm not sure which one you are referring to, unless I got it wrong. Maybe Dr. K?
I'm on the second batch. I'm on the batch, unless I've got something wrong, because I opened the batch. Is it not the Khatlong?
Yes, it is. It is the Khatlong.
Yes, on page 6. If you look at those tariffs on page 6, you will see there that we are allowing the level of increase to be above, but we are saying that yes, even so, it is within the benchmark. So my point is that if you allow the level of increase to be higher, you must also think about affordability and the ability to pay.
Okay. All right. Dr. K?
Thanks, Chair. So the increase, I think it's aligned to the guideline. It's just that the tariff is above the benchmark for reasons provided, and we allowed it because their markup is very low. In fact, they are purchasing more than what the price they're selling at. So maybe just a correction of the language there, that it's above the benchmarks, but the increase is aligned to the guideline. Thanks, Chair. I don't know if I answered correctly.
All right. Okay. Madam Aseti, I see that it says the proposed tariff is within benchmarks, but I know that it's actually within, it's at the increase it's proposed is actually at the guideline. So it's guideline increase within benchmarks. So that's how I'm reading the first one and the IBTs. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Murati. Noted. With that, note of clarification.
I approve, Chairperson. It is just the language, really, because it's misleading.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Chair.
All right. Thanks, Nara. So the decision that is sought is on page 10 of 248 in terms of the overlay numbers. You've approved, Mr. Mkiza. Would you approve? Mr. Mkiza?
Approve.
Thank you.
Approve.
Thank you.
I support approval. Thank you.
All right. The next one, again, CEO Dr. K. Jomrolo.
Thanks, Chair. So this one is also in a similar situation in terms of the rural night safe tariff, but they have losses which are not that high. But we did not limit them because when we compare the selling price, their markup is quite low. So we recommend approval. Nothing is above the guideline, and they have biggest customer base is domestic customers. So these customers used to be supplied by the mine, but the mine decided they want to be responsible for the township because it's expanding. So thanks, Chair. We recommend approval.
Thank you. So the decision that's sought, members, on page 18 of 248. Show of hands, members, if you support. With that explanation, thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza, thank you, Mr. Mkiza. The next one is Kamisberg.
Thank you, Chair. Kaminsberg is one of those municipalities which are buying at night safe, and it is also not performing very well with high energy losses and operating at a deficit. But when we look at their tariffs, the ones which are above the benchmarks, the markup is very low when we compare it to the selling price. All the tariffs are increasing in line with the guidelines. Some are slightly below. We therefore recommend for approval.
Thank you, members. The decision that is sought is quite clear. It's on page 27 of 248. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Madam Massetti, would you support? Thank you, Madam Massetti. The next one is Kaikama, local. Dr. K.
Thanks, Chair. Kaima is also in the same situation. Even though their losses are above what is acceptable, they are not that high. But if you look at the APP ASP ratio, is quite low to the similar situation with the others in terms of the rural night safe. We did not limit any of their tariffs, and they're increasing by the guideline, and we recommend approval. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, members. The decision is on page 36. By show of hands, thanks, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkize, would you support? Mr. Mkize? I support.
I support. I support.
Thank you. Ms. Masike, the next one is yours. Renosterberg.
Thank you, Chair. Renosterberg is based in the Northern Cape. It's got problems with the bulk account and the notified demand charges. We have had several meetings with the municipality as well as ESCOM and also the provincial Northern Cape provincial government. So there are ongoing discussions to assist the municipality. It is applying for a 7.47%, but there's a tariff that's going that's outside the benchmark in the domestic. I think it's block 4. So we've limited it to the upper limit of the benchmark, which results in the increase being 7.46. I recommend that the rest of the tariffs be approved as requested.
Thank you, Madam. Colleagues, the decision is on page 47 by show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Madam Massetti. Rachterveld, Mr. Mkize. Lindogushe Mkize.
Chair, so yes, it's Miss Lindogushe, but she's struggling with the network, so I would assist with this one. So Richards Fed is a perfect example of the issue of the purchase price and the selling price, because their losses are just within what is acceptable, but they're still making a deficit. So the challenge there is this purchase price and selling price. We have not limited their tariffs, and they're increasing within the guidelines. So we recommend approval to the Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Members, the decision on this one, as indicated, is on page 63. By show of hands, members, if you can approve.
Chair. Chairperson?
Yes, Madam Massetti.
Yes, Chairperson. We are on, what is it, Richardsveld?
Roosterveld,
yeah. Roosterveld or Richards?
Well,
am I ahead?
Yes, no, you're actually at the correct one.
Oh, okay. Chairperson, if you look at it's page 50, 53, where we talk about those purchases. I mean, they are buying at ESCOM's night safe rural tariff, that we understand. And therefore, and why is it that we are saying we are comparing that with the rural night safe tariff? What is that? It says we are comparing the same things here. I don't understand. We are saying that the tariff at which they are buying electricity from Eskom is very high because it is under Night Save Rural Tariff. And then they are saying that Night Save Rural Tariff is expensive compared to Rural Night Save Tariff. Is it not the same thing that we are saying here? Because in other instances, they compare it with the Mega Flex, which is also not necessarily, something to compare it with if you look at this, because the cost is high anyway. So I would like to get clarification on that comparison there. Is it appropriate? What is this Rural Night Save Tariff if they are buying at Night Save Rural Tariff? Is it not the same thing, number one? Number two, then they need to just enhance the reasons there as to why they allowed the above the benchmark tariff, to say that it is to cover the cost, which is the cost that is that emanates from the Rural Night Save Tariff, as well as to allow a reasonable markup. Those are the two reasons to be provided there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. K, want to explain something? Or is
no, so we'll enhance the language there. Also doesn't look good. Enhance it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. It's actually the language. I think, there was an error there. It's meant, the benchmark, the comparison is meant to be Mega Flex, but also, as indicated, it just needs to be not technical so that anybody can understand that, has been requested by Madam Maseti earlier. Thank you. Thank you for that enhancement, Madam Maseti. The decision that is sought, but you need to then explain the above benchmarks.
They've done so.
Sorry, Mr. Maseti.
They've done so, Chairperson. I've already given them, because it is just because it's a run safe. Therefore, the reason why they are above benchmark is because you want to allow them to recover the cost, which is already high, as well as to allow for the reasonable markup. Thanks, Chair.
I hear you. Okay, thank you. So the decision that is sought then, with the enhancement of the decision, as indicated, the decision is on page 63 of 248. By show of hands, members, if you can approve that. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkize, would you approve? I support the approval. Okay, the next one is...
and they must just check, Chairperson, on this one. The person who was looking at this one, it must just be thorough. Even when there are no benchmarks, the person says it's above the benchmarks, and at the same time there are no benchmarks for this tariff. How do you deal with that in one sentence? Yeah, there are those things. I mean, it was not clean. They must just check throughout.
All right, Mr. Mkize, I guess you can answer for yourself with your bad connection. Now let's move on to the next one. Mr. Mkhadima, Siatemba.
Thank you, Chair. Siatemba municipalities are applying for 0% increase. This one, the municipalities are applying for 0% increase. The reason is that they have a major developments in the municipality area in the coming financial year. The municipality indicated they have secured a lease agreement from the much published Priska Power Reserve project of 1 million per month from August 2022. Therefore, the municipality will then have an additional 12 million per annum as an additional revenue source, and is passionate to give the full value of the source to benefit the community. Therefore, the municipality need an increase of 0%. Again, this municipality have higher energy loss. And if the municipality reduce the energy loss, they will have a surplus of 29%. We therefore recommend for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. There's 0% increase. All right, colleagues, the decision that's sought is on page 74. Any comments, questions? If not, by show of hands, members, if we can approve that 0% increase. Show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Madam Maseti. Thank you. All right, thank you, members. Prove that. The next one is all Plucky. Ms. Masiki.
Thank you, Chairperson. Sol Plaatje is applying for an increase of 4.5%. During consultation, they received an objection for tariff increase from the Ratepayers Association. And this Ratepayers Union also wrote to NERSA. Their main complaint was that the municipality has submitted the cost of supply, which was not consulted on, and the impact will be extremely high for them. So we had already indicated to the municipality that since the cost of supply was only submitted on the 10th of April 2022, we as NERSA need more time to interrogate it, and it can only be used as a basis for 2023-24 tariffs if it's approved by NERSA. And then also for the high losses, the municipality has hired a consultant to address the issues. We recommend that the 4.5 increase be approved as requested. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Masiki. The decision sought, members, is on page 95 of 248. By show of hands. Members, if we approve, thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkize, would you suffer? Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Got a decision there. Zwanga, we're back to you on Tatabana.
Thank you, Chair. The amendments which were, excuse me, the amendments which were suggested the previous time have been done as such. Tatabane is applying for 7.47%. However, on the tariffs which are outside the benchmark or above the benchmark, the adjustment have been the inflation, and it's actually generating a surplus, but with some losses, or following the guidance of Ms. Masedi. I have realized that they are losing about 16 million on their energy losses. So, Chairperson, I recommend the tariffs for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. The decision sought, members, is on page 104, as explained by show of hands. Madam Maseti, you've got your hand up. Is it approval? Mr. Mkize, approval, I assume. Thank you, members. The next one, Mr. Mkhadim.
Thank you, Chair. The Tsobatla is also applying for guideline increase of 7.47, and then they do have a deficit of 5%. I would like to correct the error there. It says the deficit of 16%. However, it's a deficit of 5%. And also it has a high energy loss. We therefore recommend for approval.
Thank you. Members, the presentation before you, the decision sought is on page 115. For show of hands, thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. The next one is Lekwatemane, local municipality, and that's back to you again, Ms. Mkhadim.
Thank you, Chair. Lekwatemane is also applying for guideline increase of 7.47, and it has a surplus of 14%. However, it has a deficit of 21%. We therefore recommend for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, the decision that is sought is on page 127. Thank you for approval, Mr. Mkize. Madam Maseti, I also support. The next one is Madibeng.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Madibeng is applying for 7.47, which is within the guideline. The municipality is not doing well at the high energy losses at 40%, even though the surplus the deficit has been improved from 21 to 17%. If the municipality were to reduce the energy losses to 12%, then we have a surplus of 21%. So the municipality need to cap these high energy losses in order to improve its financial sustainability. With that, there are energy losses. The municipality indicated that it's due to high illegal connection and tempering with meters in the area. And then last financial year, the municipality also submitted a plan on how they're going to do the high energy losses. So I'm hoping that for the next financial year, when they submit the 21-22 financial information on the different the energy losses are going to be improved. When it comes to the tariffs, most of their tariffs are above
Mr. Fadi, you know, I've been trying to, and Mr. Mkiza is complaining now, which correctly so, we are struggling to hear you. You are really not very audible.
I'm not audible, because I was using my phone because of the
load shedding. Okay. Well, please conclude. I think you are close to concluding anyway.
Okay. When we talk the tariffs, most of the tariffs are above the benchmarks, but some are just slightly, what you saying, above the benchmarks. So those ones that are slightly above, recommended for approval, because there are two tariffs that are way above, so they've been limited to, the increase is limited to 4.4% inflation increase. So those ones that are slightly above, recommending for approval, so that the municipality maybe they can cover the cost of the other tariffs that are limited to 4.4% to balance the supply. Thank you so much. I recommend for approval.
Thank you. You are not very audible, but hopefully members did hear enough for the decision. Members, the decision that's sorted on page 141 of 248. By show of hands, if you can approve. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Madam Massetti. I also approve Rustenburg. Dr. K.
Thanks, Chair.
Before you do, Madam Massetti, see your hand is still up. Thank you. Okay, Dr. K. Rustenburg.
Thanks, Chair. Rustenburg is applying for an increase of 7.47%. The biggest challenge with them is that they're not spending what they should be spending on repairs and maintenance, but they've submitted their cost of supply, which we'll consider tomorrow at the ELS, but they're not implementing this year. But other than that, I think all their tariffs are increasing by the guideline and they're within the benchmarks, so we recommend approval. Chair, thanks.
Thank you. Members, the decision that is sorted on page 156. By show of hands, members, if you can approve the decision. Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. I also support. Beaufort West, Ms. Botha.
Thank you, Chairperson. Beaufort West applying for an overall increase of 7.47%. They have a percentage surplus of 11.14%. Their energy losses are at 14.77%. At this level, the municipality forgoes revenue collection of 2.8 million rands due to the losses. Taking into account the guidance provided earlier, those tariffs categories that are increasing above or outside the benchmarks will be limited to the upper limit of the benchmarks or to the CPI. With that, I therefore recommend for approval as proposed.
Thank you. Mr. Mkiza, your hand was up. Lingering hand, perhaps, sir?
It was a lingering hand.
All right.
I've noted and I do support the recommendation.
Thank you. That's on page 170. Madam Massetti, would you support the recommendation on page 170? With that recommendation, thank you, with that enhancement. Thank you. I also support. The next one is a bit of a challenge. Ms. Matum has occurred, if we can talk to that.
Thank you, Chair. As SACWA, when we look at their financials, they're doing very well with a percentage surplus and energy losses that are within the NERSA benchmarks. When we look at their tariffs, the municipality increased tariffs that were below the benchmarks by above the guideline, and then the ones which were above the benchmarks by a below guideline increase. But however, due to what the members have, the stand the members have taken, we will limit the above guideline increases to the guideline. And the ones which are above the benchmarks, we will limit them to the upper end of the benchmarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So the decision sought, members, with that enhancement is on page 190. And so by show of hands, members, whether you agree with that recommendation with that enhancement made. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti, would you support? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Back to you, Matikama. Ms. Bose.
Thank you, Chairperson. Matikama is applying for an overall increase of 7.47%, which is in line with the guideline. They operate on a surplus of 8.42%, which is stable. Their energy losses are slightly high at 15.57%. And at this level, the municipality is losing 3.9 million rands in revenue due to the losses. The repairs and maintenance is also slightly higher than the budget of 6%. But all the tariffs are increasing in line with the guideline and within the benchmarks. I therefore recommend approval.
Thank you. The decision sought, members, on page 200, by show of hands, if you support that recommendation. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Back to you, Pumla Mossel Bay.
Mossel Bay are applying for an overall increase of 7%, and all their tariff categories are increasing below the guideline. Their percentage surplus is healthy at 13.34%. Their energy losses are contained at 5%. I therefore recommend approval.
Thank you, members. Page 212, decision. By show of hands. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, would you support? I support this one as well. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize, for a decision there. Ms. Matumbo, Otoran.
Thank you, Chair. Oudtshoorn is one of those municipalities which are also performing well with a percentage surplus and energy losses within NERSA benchmarks. All the tariffs are increasing in line with the guideline of 7.47. However, there are a few tariffs that are above the benchmarks, and we will limit those to the upper end of the benchmarks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The decision sought, members, on page 229 of 248, by show of hands, if you approve the decision. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, will you support the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. Swellendam, Ms. Botha, back to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Swellendam are applying for an overall increase of below the guideline at 7.29%. All tariff categories are below the guideline and within the benchmarks. The municipality's health is viable at 7.59% in percentage surplus. Their energy losses are within the NERSA's benchmarks at 10.94. I therefore recommend for approval.
Thank you. The decision, members, that is sought is on page 248 of 248. By show of hands, members, if you approve. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti, would you approve? Thank you, Madam Maseti. I also support. That was the last one, members, and thank you for indulgence. It is almost 10 to 5. We were supposed to finish at 4. Really thank you for your indulgence. And unless there's anything else, members, that you'd want to raise, I would like to bring this meeting to a close.
Thank you, Chairperson, Mr. Mkhize, as well as Mr. Gumede. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, members of staff, for the analysis and all the reports provided. Mr. Mkiza, you wanted to say something, sir?
No, I just wanted to say thanks to the effort to the staff members for the effort made.
All right. Thank you very much, and the meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.